So I wanted to start this video with a more macro view. So here what you see on your screen is a graph comparing China's GDP versus the US's GDP. And we can see in recent years, China has been catching up to the US here and is on pace to become the #1 powerhouse economy in the world. They're currently around $6 trillion behind the US, and this gap shrinks every single year. And the reason I want to start off with that was to show you that, China is on track to being #1. Some of us don't like that, some of us don't want to accept that, but the data speaks for itself and we can see the trend is clear. China is growing faster than the US, they are increasing their GDP quicker than the US is, and sooner or later numbers will catch up. So yeah, we can ignore it today, we can ignore it tomorrow, but 10, 20 years from now, we won't be able to ignore it anymore because the race between the China and the US will become a head-to-head battle with, #1, #2 being pretty much neck and neck. Now think about this. The US has a population of around 328 million people, but China is more than 4 times larger with over 1.4 trillion people living there. But despite having only 328 million people, the US has some thriving companies, our big tech giants, tons of innovation, tons of money flowing into the US for these companies, and it's clear that you don't need a massive $1 trillion plus population to be #1 in the world. But it definitely doesn't hurt to have that many people, because sooner or later they will help feed your company, grow it even larger, and make it a massive powerhouse. In the US, Amazon is a really good example to look at because it's very close to what Alibaba is in China with their diversified businesses. And Amazon has managed to capture most of the households in some way, shape, or form, and they've been growing incredibly well over the years. They've literally dominated e-commerce because, let's be honest, in the US, there's no one that's truly a competitor to Amazon. And they've also dominated cloud, where they're #1 with AWS. They're expanding now with video, with music, with advertising. Amazon has a lot of business segments that they are trying to be #1 in. And this is no different than Alibaba, like I said. Alibaba is essentially the same thing, but in China. They're dominating e-commerce, but in China there is more competition there. But again, there is a massive population to address. So even with competition, there's still a lot of pie for this company to capture. Alibaba, of course, also has many other business segments like I've talked about on previous videos with cloud, video, you name it. So yeah, their potential here technically should be around 4 times that of Amazon because their market in China is 4 times as much as the US. But the thing is, it's not that black and white. The US is generally a wealthier country. Most people have disposable income to spend, but in China, it's not quite the same. There are a lot of poor people. There's a much more division of the wealth gap there. And because of that, the potential may not be as big as the numbers show today. But with the efforts that, China has been making over the last few years, and arguably even now with all of this crackdown with their companies, it could be setting themselves up for a very, very strong future. And companies like Alibaba, Tencent, JD, and others will probably benefit from that. So there's pros and cons, right? Like Alibaba, it's nowhere near the maturity that Amazon is at today. It has a lot more room to grow. They are also trying to be a worldwide company. So the potential is there. That's all I'm trying to say. I do realize though that it's not going to be an easy road there. There's tons of volatility and you're either in for this ride or you're not. Looking at Alibaba's charts may seem like burning money at this point, or the popular phrase catching a falling knife. The stock has lost like 15% of its value just this week alone, and who knows where the carnage will end, if it will ever end. A couple weeks ago when we dropped below $200 per share, I was like, okay, things are looking like they're bottoming out here. We've sold off quite a bit. Things are looking good. I'm gonna start buying, and I don't think I'm gonna see too much more downside. And boy, was I wrong, because since I've released that video, Alibaba's down, like 20% more from then? Yeah, things are just crazy right now with the stock. Heck, the company lost 15% of its value in a single week. You don't see that very often with mega cap companies, so clearly there's a lot of fear with this name. But anyways, the point of this video is to update you guys on what I'm doing with Alibaba stock, both with my, shares, my investment, my core long-term hold, and also with some option plays that I put on today, which I'll share with you. Now, I did disclose in the last video that I've been purchasing Alibaba shares under $200 per share, so my cost basis is under $200. And guys, with today's discount that we saw, I had to add a bit more. I added some more shares today, and I will most likely be adding a bit more in the next few days, as long as we remain under $200, which I don't think is going to be seen very soon. I think that the media has really had their way here with Alibaba. There's just negative headline, negative headline. Everyone on social media, you look up Alibaba, people are like, oh, I'm staying away from this. I've sold out. I've dumped my shares, taken a loss. And hey, I've said this before, but maybe this time it's true. Looks like we're pretty close to capitulation here, which would mean a nice bottom in the stock. Who knows where this goes, guys? I think there's a lot more that needs to happen. The Chinese government needs to come in and reassure international investors that they're not going to be touching these large companies. They're going to keep their profits. They're going to do their thing. And that's going to hopefully instill some confidence to have some money flow back in. And I think that when that investor confidence does come back, we could probably see a very strong bounce in the stock. But who knows if and when that's going to happen. I'm just here for the long term. I just see value in this name. Remember, Alibaba is a speculative name for me, so I control the size of that position in my portfolio, and that's all I can really do as an individual investor. But hey, I was wrong when I said the stock was going to bottom once. I could be wrong again. We'll see. But now let's talk about options here when it comes to Alibaba, because I noticed that the option pricing on this stock was just off the charts today. If you are an options seller, this was definitely an opportunity that you had to dabble a little bit in. Like whether you hate Chinese stocks, don't believe in them, whatever it is, there was definitely opportunity out there today for option sellers. Oh, and by the way, if you aren't following me on Twitter, do so because it's free and I'm fairly active on there. I did tweet this today during market hours for anyone who may have missed it, saying, premiums are looking good in Alibaba, just take a look. And guys, when I say premiums were off the charts, I mean it. Here we can see put options for strikes in October, which is like 2 months away. We're up 100 to 150% plus. And trust me, you don't see this sort of volatility in such far out strikes, which still 2 months to go to expiry, that often. So I dabbled a bit on this. I couldn't pass up on it. And some of you may know that I am fairly active with options now. If you're interested in seeing any of my option plays, all that kind of stuff, check out the VIP group. You get access to a Discord. You can ask me questions, whatever in there. And I also post my daily trades in there, like the ones I'm about to show you. So here's the first play I made, which is an Iron Condor, which essentially takes advantage of the increase in volatility and lets me stay neutral in my direction. I sold the 140 puts, bought back the 130 puts to create that leg. Then I sold the 185 calls and bought back the 195 calls to create that leg. Essentially, this is a neutral strategy because it doesn't matter if Alibaba stock goes up, down, remains sideways, as long as it remains between $140 per share to $185 per share, somewhere in that range, I will win on this trade. But that's not all, and that's the beauty of option selling here. Because volatility was so high in Alibaba today, pretty much the highest it's been in the last year, this means that option prices are inflated, and this means that when some of that fear starts alleviating, that volatility starts coming down, the price of these options will start coming down, which to me as an option seller just means that I'll be able to realize my profits much quicker. But that's just, how I'm hoping it's going to play out. We'll see. What you need to understand is that a contraction in implied volatility results in option prices dropping significantly, and in this case, if that happens, that Iron Condor that I have on will realize 20, 30, 40% profits fairly quick. Iron Condors, if you're not familiar, are kind of defined risk plays, so I know what my max loss is, what my max gain is, depending on the premium that I collect initially. So I'll probably just leave this on for a few weeks, see how things play out, and maybe sometime in September or whatever, whenever I do end up closing this trade, I'll update you guys on how I did. Now, I did do an Iron Condor on Alibaba back in late July, and I realized that one for around a 35% profit. And back then, volatility was not as high as it was today, so I think that the odds of winning in this trade is pretty good, guys. Now, that wasn't the only play I did with options. I did a second play, which was a lot more riskier, but I'm willing to take that bet here with this stock. I sold some of the October monthly's $125 puts for nearly $4 per contract. Just for reference, these options were trading at under $1 per contract just a few days ago before this wild drop, and with this combination of fear and volatility picking up, the premiums here just shot up significantly. So with this play, as long as Alibaba stock is above $125 per share by October 15th, I will win. And when I look at Alibaba's weekly charts, we can see that previously it has found support around the $130 per share mark, which is above my strike price, so I'm fairly comfortable with this trade. Now, could I be wrong on this? Sure, and because this is a naked option, a naked short put here, my risk is technically undefined. However, this is the worst case scenario for me. If Alibaba drops below $125 per share, I can either roll out the option, another month or so, collect some more premium and give it more time, or what I could do is just take assignment of the stock at that point, own it at $125 per share, and just continue holding long the shares. Now, it won't be $125 per share because I collected around $4 in premium, so my net cost would actually be around $121 per share if I take assignment. But I'll be honest with you guys, if I see 30 to 50% profits in this play over the next few days or weeks, I will most likely take this trade off the table and deploy that capital elsewhere. What I'm betting on here is that we see sort of a bounce, probably not a full recovery, but just a bounce and a drop in volatility, which would pretty much be a combination to bring these naked puts quite far into profitability, which is when I can realize those profits. And I know some of this may be confusing if you're not familiar with options, but again, check out the VIP group. Even if it's just for a month, try it out. I'll answer whatever questions I can there in the Discord. You can see what plays I do. And I think it'll be well worth your time to learn this valuable skill. I've recently gotten to option selling. I've spent a ton of time learning it. And trust me, this is something you could do long term if you're disciplined. But anyways, Alibaba, a lot is still up in the air with this stock. A lot is still up in the air with their future, with whether this is going to be a good investment long term, it's going to go to zero like some people say. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I've placed my bets. I've, pretty much said that, yeah, maybe in the short term, the stock is not going to see much of a recovery. Who knows? Maybe it takes a few years for things to recover. But I think, 10, 20 years from now, I'll probably still be holding this stock, and I'll be looking back at this time along with everyone else, and we'll be saying, oh man, 2021, that was a buying opportunity in Alibaba. Why didn't we buy in? All that FUD was just overblown. I wish I bought in. And I've gone through these phases with other stocks before I kind of got this comfortable with investing with risk, with volatility. And trust me, it sucks to see a stock that you wanted to own drop massively, not buy in, only to see it recover massive in the future. So I'm not going to miss out again. Alibaba is a stock that I'm holding. And for those of you that also own the stock, I wish you all the best. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.